Today we are taking a look at the Martian Invader villain from Unmatched Adventures. So the Martian Invader is one of the villain scenarios from Unmatched Adventures Tales to Amaze. Unmatched Adventures is the new cooperative version of Unmatched. It plays like regular Unmatched for each of the players. You just have a villain who comes into this game that you have to all work together to defeat. So this one here is based off of kind of B-movie Martian Invaders. The Martian Invader mini is made out of two different plastics here. The green with the beam coming down from the bottom of it there, which has the hex base. This is actually in two pieces so that it can be stored a little bit better in the box. The easiest way to remember how to align them back together, but there's a little nub right there, and that nub will line up with that hole right there. And then you have it together nice and cleanly, and it sits on the board. It looks like that from an angle, which is pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and go over the setup for this to start with. We're going to start with the threat tracker on that spot. We're going to take the alien symbol tokens. They have these symbols on the back, which correspond with effects on cards. These are going to get shuffled up. And we'll sit down here, and we don't know which one is on which spot. We are going to take, of these 1, 2, 3, and 4 initiative cards here, we're going to take the number of players that there are and take that. We will take the Martian Invaders initiative card and stick in there. And then Martian Invaders also have these guys, which are 4 other initiative cards. Now, most initiative cards you're going to see will have a right now, which is the player will take a turn, or Martian Invader takes a turn. You have these placards here for the players just to keep track who is which player, which is important in this game. But you'll see that these are additional things where just something happens. We can see some different things here. All heroes and sidekicks adjacent to an occupied field take a damage. If no fighter took damage this way, add an alien to the lowest numbered field. Any player may discard a card. If no one does, add an alien to one field bordering the Martian Invader space. Any player may discard a card with a boost value of 2 or higher. If no one does, add an alien to each field bordering the Martian Invader space. And any player may discard a card with a boost value of 2 or higher. If no one does, add an alien to the highest and lowest numbered fields. So yeah, these are pretty rough. And basically this will scale up for 1 player, you stick in wave 1. For 2 players, you'll stick in 1 and 2. For 3, you stick 1, 2, and 3. And for 4, you stick in all 4 of these. And those would go into the initiative deck. Initially, we're going to have a minion that we will have in there, and we're going to take one of the minions. We'll just throw Tarantula in there, and that would give us an additional one. So you can see that right now we're going to have 4 in there for a 1-player game. We're going to put this guy on the number 5 starting spot. We'll put Tarantula on any space adjacent. Going to take the Martian Invader's health, and we will set the 10 to the number of players. So 10 for 1 player, 20 for 2, 30 for 3, 40 for 4. And then our heroes will all start on the other numbered starting spaces. So these cards will then shuffle up, and these cards will come out randomly, and we'll see the order here. Well, we start off with, in this case, the Martian Invader Wave 1. So anyone adjacent to a unoccupied field will take a damage. And if no one took damage, then you add an alien. Now, on the base game, you have these little tokens here for aliens. They're Mothman's Doom tokens on one side and the alien tokens on the other. If you got the Kickstarter version of it here, you will get these little Martians which are tiny little guys, but kind of cool looking. They're in green plastic with that wash that we have over everything, which makes them look nice and awesome. So if we were to follow that, we would go to the lowest number field, which would be right there. Oh, right by where I happen to start. And that goes there. Next, we would have player one would be able to go. So player one could maneuver and do their things. One additional thing that can happen is if you do a maneuver and end up by a field, at the end of that maneuver, you can remove a Martian from the field. So that can be something that can be really handy for you. 3 is going to be the Martian Invader. Now the Martian Invader will be able to do a few things here. Based off the card here, we'll see it's a move 3 on the right now. And he can move 3 spaces. So number one, he will attack someone adjacent if there's someone adjacent. There's no one adjacent, so he won't. But he could maneuver 3. And he does have somebody there that he can maneuver 2 in 3 spaces. And he could attack. So you would take the top card of the Martian Invader deck. You'd put that down there. And Nikola Tesla would have to defend against the Martian Invader. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at these cards. And then we'll finish this and get through what goes through rest of the thing here. So taking a look at the Martian Invader's cards. Now the Martian Invader has 9 cards in their deck. You notice that these all have different numbers of cards in them, which is interesting. Now you would be like, well, 9 cards, they're going to run out pretty quick. Well, not so fast on that. You'll see why here in a bit. Once again, we see the lovely artwork in here that we always have in Unmatched. Very nice. Lights in the Sky. 2 copies. This is an attack of 3 and a defense of 2 with a boost value of 3. Now we will see that this during combat effect here only goes if this symbol is active. Well, what is going on with these symbols? Well, as the threat marker moves up, eventually symbols will flip over. Once that flips over, if this symbol were to show up, we would do that effect. Now this symbol does not match that, so it wouldn't do anything. Now you don't know where this symbol is in there, this little bloopy bloop signal, that symbol there. Right there. So there's the little atom symbol. And you don't know where these are. And the 4th one's never going to show up in the game because when we get to that one, they just win. That's their win scenario, is to defeat everybody or to get all of these symbols flipped over. So the top one, the symbol effect, you think of these kind of being like little red symbols. Add +2 to this card's value. So if that symbol's up, this becomes a 5. After combat, place the Martian Invader in a space bordering the highest numbered empty field. That is a way to move the Martian Invader around, because otherwise their maneuver would be a bit predictable. Having the Martian Invader move around kind of stops it from being so predictable. 2 copies of They're Coming For You, which has this weird symbol effect. Add +1 to this card's value for each occupied field. So the number of fields with Martians in them will get a lot. Deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter in the Martian Invader zone. That bottom one happens no matter what. The top one is just if the symbol is there. Unspeakable Experimentation. That is 1 copy, both an attack and a defense of 4. With the symbol, the value of the opponent's card is 2 and cannot be changed. After combat, place the Martian Invader in a space bordering the lowest numbered empty field. Number 1. Once again, a way for them to move. Nullification Beam, an attack of 4, defense of 2, 1 copy with a boost of 3. With the symbol, immediately if the Martian Invader is in a space bordering an occupied field, cancel all effects on the opponent's card. After combat, place an alien in each field bordering the Martian Invader's space. So this just lets them drop more Martians out there. Do you think the Martians are going to drop out? Heat Blast, 1 copy, an attack of 4, defense of 1. The symbol effect, deal 3 damage to the opposing fighter. So you can see how that would get really bad as this thing starts coming through there. Place the Martian Invader in a space bordering the highest numbered empty field. Martian Invader loves to move around a lot. Freeze Ray! Freeze Ray! Oh, no, is that not Freeze Ray? Okay. Attack of 4, defense of 2 with a boost of 3 on this one. The symbol effect, if the Martian Invader is in a space bordering an occupied field, ignore the value of your opponent's card. After combat, place an alien in each field bordering the Martian Invader's space. So, see, that would be ways to get more of these Martians, all these Martians. And lastly, Deception. And this is a key card in the deck. This is 1 copy, an attack and a defense both of 0, boost of 3. Whenever this card is put into the Martian Invader's discard pile, shuffle its discard pile back into its deck, including this card. This effect cannot be canceled. Okay, so the reason this is important is this is what keeps these cards cycling around. So the Martian Invaders cards are just gonna keep happening and keep coming, and they're not gonna stop because this will make it come back. In fact, all of the villains and all of the minions have a deception card to do this. That deception card is why Black Panther is a little bit problematic, because if he were to put this deception in his vibranium suit, it would kind of break the game. That is the Martian Invaders deck. However, we see here that the Martian Invader does have here on his card something else here, an end of round thing. We'll play out the rest of the end of the round here. Tarantula would go to attack somebody. Tarantula's move is 3. Tarantula can't get to anyone in 3 spaces, so the threat marker would move up 1. Then we get to the end of round, and we do these in order as the cards came out. So it would be Martian Invader first. End of round, advance the threat marker a number of spaces equal to 1 plus the number of occupied fields. So in this case, we have one occupied field, so it would move 2 spaces. So that guy's going to move along there. And then Tarantula would do their effect at the end of this. So you can see how these Martians can start moving along here, and having a bunch of occupied fields can be problems. That's why you want to make sure that whenever you end maneuvers, just a maneuver to draw cards, you try to get next to a field and get rid of some of them. Of course, running away from either the minion or the villain brings this up, because remember, the 3 things that a villain or a minion will do will be, number 1, move 3 spaces to attack. And if they can do that, they'll attack, or attack adjacent if there's someone there. Or if they can't get to anyone, they just move the threat tracker up 1. So that would be another way that would happen. So the threat tracker can eventually move up here, start revealing things. It can get problematic. Now, of course, we took a look at the Martian Invaders. We're going to take a look at these other guys, these other minions. And I have 3 minions that I'm going to take a look at here. We have 6 in the set. Any of these 6 can be used with either of the villains. I'm taking a look at these 3 with this because these are kind of more B-movie type minions that fit thematically with it, which will be the Blob, Ant Queen, and Tarantula. Tarantula has 7 cards. You see everybody has a little bit different amount of cards. His end of round ability is place a web token in Tarantula's space if there's not one there already. So the web tokens are going to be these things here. And the web tokens are kind of like half of Muldoon's track. Basically, just stop moving. When everyone hits a web, they have to stop moving. They don't take damage. It just slows them down. It's just an annoying thing. 2 copies of Disorienting Venom. This is an attack of 3 and defense of 2. Immediately cancel all effects on the opponent's card. If Tarantula is in a space with a web token, also ignore that card's value. So Tarantula can do a lot here. 8 Legs of Terror. 2 copies, an attack of 3, defense of 1. With a boost of 2. we will see that this effect here is just attached to the attack. You can see that there's a line there separating the defense from the attack, so it only happens with the attack. After combat, place a web token in Tarantula space, then place Tarantula in the closest empty starting space. Put Tarantula's initiative card on the bottom of the initiative deck. That basically means that Tarantula's card will go back onto the bottom of the deck and Tarantula would get another turn that round. Annoying. Sinister Snare, 2 copies, an attack of 4, defense of 3 with a boost of 3. The attack effect is during combat. If Tarantula is in a space with a web token, the value of this attack is 6 instead. Get some big attacks there. And lastly, Tarantula, of course, has the Deception card. Okay, next we'll take a look at the Blob. Blob has a move of 3. And its end of round ability is place an acid token in the blob space if there's not one there already. Well, what are the acid tokens? Well, the acid tokens are these. These are kind of like half of one of Muldoon's traps. You take 1 damage whenever you go through it. It doesn't stop you, but you take a damage. The interesting thing about the web tokens and the acid tokens is that they do not ever leave the board, so they just stay out there and you have to deal with them even if Blob or Tarantula are defeated. Acidic Explosion, attack of 4 with a defense of 2 and a boost of 3. The attack effect is, after combat, deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter in the blob zone. Place an acid token in an empty space in the blob zone. Adding more acid tokens. It's getting bigger. 3 copies, an attack of 2, defense of 3 with a 2 boost. The attack effects are during combat, add +1 to the value of this card for each acid token in the blob zone, and after combat, place an acid token in each empty space adjacent to the blob. So just a lot of ways to get acid tokens out there. 2 copies of Caustic Spray, an attack of 1, defense of 2. After combat, deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter for each acid token on or adjacent to their space. So this can be a 1 attack here or a small defense, but it can deal some damage, especially if you happen to be around a lot of acid. And once again, Blob has a Deception card. And lastly, we will get Ant Queen. Yes, my queen. Ant Queen, of course, has a move of 3. Her end of round ability is advance the threat marker 1 space. So she just moves the threat marker 1 space. Then, if the threat level is 3 or higher, add a random strange pheromone initiative card to the initiative deck before you reshuffle. What is this strange pheromone? Well, there are 3 strange pheromone cards. So basically, these can get thrown into the initiative deck and then do things. Now, they don't do anything right now. They do things at the end of the round, which is interesting. But you have each player with a fighter in Ant Queen's zone discards a card. Deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter in Ant Queen's zone. And each enemy in Ant Queen's zone recovers 1 health, including Ant Queen. So, healing. This Ant Queen. Adding these strange pheromones. We'll take a look at her cards here. 8 cards in Ant Queen's deck. She can't be stopped. Attack of 3, defense of 1 with a boost of 3. After combat, if the Ant Queen lost to combat, advance the threat marker 1 space. So Ant Queen loves to move this threat marker. She's the only minion that does that. Pheromone Frenzy. Attack of 4, defense of 3 with a boost of 2. Add +1 to this card for each revealed strange pheromone initiative card. Now, that's just going to be for revealed. The ones that are still in the initiative deck and haven't come out yet, don't add to it. But it could potentially get big depending on when these cards come out. Savage Swarm. 3 copies of these, both an attack and defense of 1 with a boost of 2. During combat, the value of this card is equal to the threat level instead. So this could go up to a 4 or potentially a 5 in the Mothman scenario. Yeah, and lastly we have Ant Queen's Deception card. Now there's a number of reasons why the Alien Invader scenario is considered to be the more difficult of the two. We have a smaller number of threat things up here, 1 2 3 4 5 6, so that moves along quicker. These effects, as they start coming out, get really rough. The Martian Invader moves around a lot, so there's a lot of things there. You also don't have the bridge that can heal like you have in Mothman, so you have like extra healing in the Mothman scenario that you will not have with the Martian Invaders. So this would be a good way here when the Mothman scenario seems like a little simple. You can go to the Alien Invaders and get it a bit more difficult. You also have all these amazing event cards here, which can make things more difficult, putting these into play. So that is definitely something else that can be done to make this game a bit more difficult, which will help with its playability. Once again, I think this is just a great way to play Unmatched. I think it will be good for a lot of people that aren't into the dueling aspect as much. A lot of people are much more into cooperative games, and this is just another great way to play it here. And you can use the heroes that come with the set or any of the others from the other sets. So yeah, it's just a lot of different ways to be able to play this game. So if you found this video interesting and it was helpful for you, you can give it a thumbs up and a like. You can also go into the comments section and leave me any thoughts that you have there. And you can also check out my channel, all the videos that I have there, and also subscribe to make sure that you don't miss anything. I am Jeremy Poindexter G with To the Tabletop, and we'll see you around next time.